The morning shift at Denver airport security started like any other for Maria Santos, until she spotted him. A passenger moving wrong, shoulders tense, eyes scanning not for departure gates, but for security gaps. Her 6 years as a Federal Air Marshal had taught her to read the subtle signs that separated nervous travelers from trained killers. When he bypassed the main checkpoint using a service corridor that shouldn't have been accessible, Maria faced a split-second choice: follow protocol and radio for backup, or use skills she'd promised to Barry when she left federal service. The weapon in his jacket wasn't for hijacking a plane, it was for something much worse. Welcome to Hidden Legends. Before we begin this incredible story of an airport security officer whose gentle screening once protected aircraft at 30,000 feet, tell me in the comments where you're watching from today. And if you believe that true guardians watch over us in the most ordinary places, hit that subscribe button and share this story to honor those who keep us safe from the shadows. Maria Santos clocked in at Denver International Airport at 5:30 a.m., just like she had every weekday for the past 4 years. At 38, she'd built a reputation as one of TSA's most thorough security officers, with a passenger approval rating that made supervisors wonder how someone could be both strict and well-liked. "Morning, Maria," called Jake from the X-ray station. "Ready for another day of confiscating water bottles?" Maria smiled, adjusting her TSA badge and pulling on her blue nitrile gloves. "Someone's got to keep the skies safe," she replied, the familiar phrase carrying more weight than anyone around her realized. The morning rush began at 6 a.m. sharp. Business travelers, families heading to vacations, nervous first-time flyers. Maria processed them all with the same patient efficiency. Her trained eye caught prohibited items that others missed: a forgotten pocket knife, prescription medications without proper labels, a laptop battery that exceeded regulations. But Maria was looking for more than standard security violations. Her gaze tracked movement patterns, read body language, identified the subtle tells that separated legitimate travelers from potential threats. Skills learned not in TSA training, but during 6 years as a Federal Air Marshal flying classified routes and protecting high-risk flights. "Next," Maria called out, gesturing a middle-aged businessman forward. As he placed his belongings in the gray bins, she noted his hands: steady, professional, no nervous tremor. His shoes were expensive but practical. His carry-on contained exactly what a corporate executive would pack. Clean. The morning progressed normally until 8:47 a.m., when Maria spotted movement that didn't belong. A man in his early 30s approached the checkpoint from the wrong direction. Not unusual by itself. Confused travelers often got lost in Den's sprawling layout. But his movement pattern was different. His eyes weren't seeking help or departure information. They were mapping security positions, camera angles, and exit routes. Maria's Federal Air Marshal training kicked in automatically. The man's posture suggested military or law enforcement background. His clothing was carefully chosen to blend in: jeans, casual jacket, running shoes. But his tactical awareness betrayed professional training. He joined the security line normally, pulling out his identification and boarding pass like any other passenger. Maria couldn't see him directly from her position, but she tracked his movement through peripheral vision while continuing to process other travelers. When he reached the document check station, something felt wrong. His interaction with Officer Thompson was too smooth, too rehearsed. Professional courtesy between experienced operators. Maria's blood chilled. She recognized the behavior because she'd been trained in the same techniques. The man proceeded to the metal detector, removing his jacket and shoes with practiced efficiency. As he passed through the scanner, Maria caught a glimpse of his left ankle. A slight bulge that could be a medical device, thick sock, or something else entirely. The scanner didn't alarm. He collected his belongings and headed toward the departure gates. Maria made a decision that would change everything. "Jake," Maria called to her X-ray partner, "cover my station for 5 minutes, bathroom break." Instead of heading to the employee facilities, Maria took a service corridor that paralleled the main concourse. Her TSA badge gave her access to restricted areas, and she used that access now to track the suspicious passenger. She emerged near gate B15, positioning herself where she could observe without being obvious. The man was there, seated near the boarding area. but he wasn't watching for flight announcements. His attention was fixed on the security checkpoint behind him, timing patterns and procedures. Maria's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Weather pattern Delta. Proceed as discussed. Her blood froze. That code phrase hadn't been used since Operation Skyguard in 2019, a classified mission where air marshals had intercepted a coordinated attack on multiple aircraft. 3 marshals had died in that operation, including her partner Sarah Chen. Someone was using classified federal codes at her airport. Maria immediately activated her emergency contact protocol, sending a coded message to a number she'd memorized but hoped never to use. The response came within seconds. Cover blown. Multiple assets compromised. You are primary. The man suddenly stood and walked toward a service entrance that should have been locked to passenger access. Maria's training told her this was no random security breach. This was a coordinated operation, and she was the only federal asset in position to respond. Maria used her TSA access to follow through parallel corridors, staying ahead of the target while maintaining visual contact through security monitors. The man moved with purpose through areas that required high-level clearance, suggesting inside assistance. He wasn't heading toward departure gates. He was moving toward the Airport Operations Center, the nerve center that controlled air traffic, ground operations, and emergency responses for one of America's busiest airports. Maria's secure phone vibrated with an incoming call from a number she recognized. Federal Air Marshal Command. Phoenix 7, this is Control. Maria hadn't heard her old call sign in 4 years. Control, this is Phoenix 7. I'm tracking a hostile using Skyguard protocols in restricted areas of DEN. Confirmed, Phoenix 7. Intelligence indicates coordinated attack on multiple airports. You are authorized to engage with extreme prejudice. What's the target? Unknown. Prevent access to Operations Center by any means necessary. Additional assets are 20 minutes out. Maria ended the call and assessed her situation. 1 hostile with probable weapon, unknown backup, and access to areas that could affect thousands of flights and millions of passengers. She'd faced worse odds in the air at 30,000 feet. The Airport Operations Center controlled everything from runway assignments to emergency response coordination. If someone wanted to create maximum chaos and casualties, it would be the perfect target. Maria reached the center's security checkpoint ahead of her target, using her TSA credentials to gain access. The 2 guards on duty recognized her. She'd worked airport security long enough to build relationships across departments. Maria, what brings you up here? Possible security breach. I need you both to step away from the entrance, right now. Something in her tone made them comply immediately. Maria positioned herself where she could control access to the center's main entrance while maintaining cover behind a concrete support pillar. The hostile appeared 3 minutes later, moving through the corridor with increasing urgency. He'd acquired a maintenance uniform from somewhere, probably disabled the actual employee. Professional work. When he reached the security checkpoint, he presented forged credentials that would have fooled most people. But Maria's trained eye caught the subtle flaws: incorrect font on the ID badge, wrong color coding for access levels. "Sir, I need to verify your authorization," Maria called out, stepping into view. The man turned, and Maria saw his face clearly for the first time. Mid-30s, athletic build, and eyes that had seen combat. But what chilled her was the recognition that flashed across his features. He knew who she was. "Agent Santos," the man said calmly. "Been a while since Skyguard." Maria's mind raced. He knew her real identity, which meant he had access to classified federal files. This wasn't random terrorism. It was a targeted operation against federal air security. "Don't recognize you," Maria replied, keeping her voice steady while assessing tactical options. "But I know why you're here." "Do you? Then you know it's too late to stop it." The man's hand moved toward his jacket, and Maria's Federal Air Marshal training took over completely. 6 years of protecting aircraft and passengers kicked in, overriding 4 years of civilian life in a split second. She'd been trained for exactly this scenario: a hostile with probable weapon in a critical infrastructure location with civilian lives at stake. Maria had 3 seconds to make a decision that would determine whether thousands of people lived or died. Time slowed as Maria's combat training engaged. Her mind automatically calculated distance, 12 feet, cover options, concrete pillar to her left, service doorway behind her, and threat assessment, armed, trained, probably explosive device based on operation profile. The man's hand was moving toward what her experience told her was a concealed weapon. His body language indicated he was committed to violence. His positioning blocked the only exit from the operations center, where 6 air traffic controllers were managing hundreds of aircraft. 1 second. Maria's muscles coiled as she prepared to move. Her civilian identity as a TSA officer fell away completely, replaced by the Federal Air Marshal who'd protected high-value flights for 6 years. 2 seconds. The man's jacket opened slightly, revealing what looked like the grip of a compact pistol, but Maria's trained eye caught something else, wires running from his belt toward his chest. Not just a shooter, a bomber. 3 seconds. Maria launched herself forward with the explosive power that had made her one of the Air Marshal Service's most effective operators. 12 feet disappeared in a blur of motion as she closed distance faster than human reaction time allowed. The tackle was textbook perfect. Low, driving through the target's center of gravity, using his own momentum against him. They hit the floor hard, Maria's training ensuring she controlled the landing and maintained position. The weapon flew from his hand as they impacted concrete. Maria immediately secured it while applying a blood choke that would render him unconscious in seconds without permanent damage. "Operations Center, this is Federal Air Marshal Santos," she called out as the man went limp. "I need bomb disposal and federal backup immediately. Suspect is unconscious and secured." 20 minutes later, the area swarmed with federal agents, bomb disposal experts, and airport security. The man Maria had tackled was indeed carrying explosives, enough to level the operations center and create catastrophic disruption to air traffic across the Rocky Mountain region. FBI Special Agent Davis approached Maria as she gave her statement. "Agent Santos, preliminary investigation shows this was part of a coordinated attack on 5 major airports. Your actions prevented what could have been the largest aviation disaster since 9/11. Maria nodded, still processing the transition back to her civilian identity. Around her, TSA colleagues stared in confusion and amazement. Jake from the X-ray station kept shaking his head in disbelief. "Maria," Agent Davis continued, "we need to discuss your current assignment. After today, your cover as TSA is blown. We'd like to offer you a position with the Joint Terrorism Task Force." "I appreciate the offer," Maria replied, "but I like my current job." Agent Davis looked puzzled. "Checking bags and processing passengers?" Maria smiled, looking out at the terminal where thousands of travelers moved safely through security checkpoints, protected by systems and people they never noticed. "Someone has to keep the skies safe," she said. 2 hours later, Maria was back at her TSA station, processing passengers as if nothing had happened. The official story was that a maintenance worker had suffered a medical emergency and fallen, requiring immediate medical attention. The truth would remain classified. "Maria," Jake asked quietly, "what really happened up there?" "Someone needed help," she replied simply. "I helped them." But Jake noticed changes. Maria's movements were different now, more alert, more purposeful. Her scanning of passengers had intensified, and she'd positioned herself where she could observe the entire checkpoint. A young mother approached with her toddler, struggling with carry-on bags and a stroller. Maria immediately stepped forward to assist, her demeanor warm and professional. "First time flying with little ones?" Maria asked gently. "Yes, and I'm so nervous," the mother replied. "Don't worry," Maria said, efficiently processing their belongings while entertaining the child with silly faces. "You're in good hands. We take very good care of everyone here." As the family moved toward their gate, the mother turned back and waved. Maria waved back, then returned to her screening duties. Her secure phone buzzed with a message from Federal Air Marshal Command. "Phoenix 7, thank you for your service. Standing by for future activation." Maria deleted the message and continued screening passengers. 6 months later, Maria Santos received a package with no return address. Inside was a challenge coin bearing the Federal Air Marshal insignia and a simple inscription, "Guardian at the gate, silent service." No ceremony, no public recognition, no acknowledgement of the day she'd prevented a coordinated terrorist attack that could have killed thousands. That evening, as Maria processed her last passenger of the shift, an elderly veteran traveling to visit his grandchildren, she noticed his Air Force pin and quietly thanked him for his service. "Thank you for yours too, ma'am," he replied, and Maria realized her secret wasn't as hidden as she thought. Some guardians wear uniforms everyone recognizes. Others wear TSA badges and smile while checking your ID, making sure your flight is safe before you even know you were in danger. Maria Santos clocked out at 6 p.m., just like she had every weekday for 4 years. Tomorrow there would be more bags to check, more passengers to screen, more threats to identify and neutralize. Because someone has to keep the skies safe. And sometimes the person who makes sure you have a safe flight is the same person who would tackle an armed terrorist in 3 seconds to protect strangers she's never met. The next time you go through airport security, remember that the TSA officer checking your bag might be someone who's done more than you could ever imagine to keep you safe. They won't tell you about it. They won't ask for recognition. They'll just smile, check your ID, and make sure you get home safely. Because that's what guardians do.